everyone, welcome back to the Journey Not Real Talk. I'm so excited about today's episode because we've got Rahul, Steve, and Tony here to chat about what it's really like to move, live, study, and work abroad. So, gents, let's kick things off. Can you share with our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on as well, by the way, Thao. My name's Steve Gilson. I currently live in France, in La Rochelle, which is on the west coast. Previously lived in London, and I was working as a board level director in a distribution business. And I've now moved to France where I've set up as a freelance digital marketing specialist. So I offer digital marketing services and consultancy, and I also teach digital marketing too. So I love SEO and things like that. But anything marketing is really my bag, and I'd be interested to find out what you other guys are up to too. Yes, that's kind of me in a nutshell. Oh, I suppose the other thing is from a personal point of view, I've got a small family, so I've got a couple of small children, 9 and 11, and so they've been over here. Well, we've been over here for 6 years, so they came over when they were quite small. So yeah, when I'm not doing marketing things, I'm being sort of primary caregiver for the kids too. So yeah, I've got quite a lot on my plate.
Hello everyone. Really nice to meet you, and thank you very much for helping me. I'm Tony. I'm a Vietnamese student. So I moved to the UK when I was 16. I'm 22 now, so I got quite some experience in terms of like studying abroad in the UK. I'm a fresh graduate from Queen Mary University, so I'm still based in London. Always been based in London for the last 5 years, I'd say. I graduated and started a role of a data analyst of a recruiting startup. I really love my jobs, and aside from that, I really love playing football, and that's one of the things I try to do like literally every day because I'm so in love with football, both on and off the field. An interesting fact is that I'm a C-level coach in football. I have a certificate from the National Football Associate, so I'm really proud of that. And
Oh,
thank you very much for having me on the show.
that's really impressive. Which team that you support?
Well, I support Barcelona. I used to support West Ham for 3 to 4 years because it's really close to my university and close to my house. But since Declan Rice left and joined Arsenal, I'm fully support Barcelona now.
Nice one. Rahul, how about you?
Hello everyone, I'm Rahul. I moved to the UK in 2022. Initially, I was based out of London. I was working for one of the major consultancy firm. I'm glad I was working with the host of this show. So she was my, I would say, first colleague. And then I decided I got kind of bored with consultancy work because it's kind of repetitive. Then I decided to move towards more of a product side. So 2023, I moved to Booking.com, and I've been working in a field called FinOps, which many of you might not be aware of. So it's related to cost in the tech field. So everything, wherever we talk about cost in the tech field, whether it's your IT cost, cloud cost, it's fall into that bucket. So we cover that. And apart from work, one of the great thing which I really love about this country is the love of cricket. And I am basically coming from India, like we are fond of cricket. So like it's not alien concept, unlike if you talk to any European expert here and they say like what is cricket. So it's not an alien conversation in this country. So I can talk about cricket, I can play cricket. And obviously like British ruled India for 200 years, so we also had a lot of relationship which we'll talk about later in this session. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rahul, and thanks, Tony and Steve, as well. Right, guys. So before this call today, I asked each of you to bring two items, one that represents your home country and one that represents your second home, where you are living now. So let's start there. What did you bring today, and why these two things?
Yeah, so like as I mentioned in my introduction, that India and British are not culturally fall apart because yeah, there was like 200 years of relationship between British and India, and like they took a lot of cultural aspect from India as well. One of them is obviously the fondness of British people of towards Indian food. So that's something like when I moved over here, like I was really amazed to see so many Indian restaurants in and around London, and especially like I was staying in northwestern London, which is a place like quite dominated by Indian community. So I did not feel that much alien. and like it was quite easy to get all sort of Indian food or condiments in London. That was one thing which I really like, and especially like chicken tikka masala. It's not the exactly the same way we cook in India, but you need to adjust it. So at least I get to eat chicken tikka masala. And one thing which I really adapted over here is like different flavors of coffee. Like before moving to UK, I did not realize that like there could be so many different types of coffee. You can play around with different types of milk. You can play around with different sort of coffee flavors as well. So that was one thing which really amazed me. Like I remember like during my first week when I visited Pret, I got confused to look at their menu card, like which because I used to order cappuccino all the time, and when I looked at the menu card, it was like cappuccino, americano, whatnot, and like and they will ask for you like, would you like a cow milk or a oat milk or a almond milk? And I was so confused. So that's something which I really adapted to. Now I'm kind of pro in it. So if you ask me, order you a perfect coffee for you, I can do that.
Amazing. Thank you, Rahul. Steve, is that the same thing in France as well when you go and order a coffee?
Coffee's, I would argue, better. I prefer it, but I've always just liked black espresso, and that's pretty much what you're going to get if you come to France. They don't. Well, my wife loves a cappuccino, but she doesn't drink them here because they're just too bad. And you don't have the big chains, like you don't have Starbucks and Costa particularly, unless you're at a service station or in the city, which I'm not. So basically, it's little coffee. It's at boulangeries, at cafes. The good news is that it's about a quarter of the price of the UK. So if you like coffee and you like a small espresso, it costs next to nothing. So yeah, that's the trade-off.
One thing which like I found kind of strange, like French people are quite emotive about their breads, especially croissant.
Yeah, yeah, indeed.
Steve, how about you?
No, I was going to actually, to be honest with you, my son ate the baguette. I was going to bring. I had a bit of baguette left. I was going to bring. I quite happily just eat a bit of French bread with, a bit of baguette with just some butter. It's yeah, having grown up in the UK, yeah, it's quite a different experience. And then you got all the viennoiserie like the croissant and
Mm.
yeah, the pain au chocolat and all that stuff. If and they put a lot of effort and pride into it. So yeah, no, I was going to bring that, but I didn't. I brought this instead. Does anyone know what that is? This is what you use when you have a raclette. Raclette is a type of cheese. Yeah, yeah. So what you do is you put your raclette cheese in this little dish, and then you put it under the grill,
Yeah.
and you melt the cheese, and then you have potatoes that you then pour the cheese onto. It sounds very
Mm.
basic, but you also have charcuterie, and usually cornichon, like the little pickles that go with it. But and it's a fatty sort of dinner, which is why I mentioned skiing because it comes from the Alps. It's one of those stodgy kind of dishes to keep you yeah, warm in winter. So yeah, it's something very seasonal. You'd only have it really autumn or winter around here. But I brought it because I like it. I enjoy it. It doesn't quite replace a good bit of Indian food, Rahul. I'm with you on that one. And obviously, so apart from living in France, I also traveled quite a lot. Lived in
Mm.
many different countries. I spent a good 4 months in India, a couple of months in Nepal. I love my Indian food, so I get that. But without that, because they're very bland over here, it's not very spicy. But this is a good comfort meal, so I look forward to a raclette. I like the communal feel. So yeah, I brought that one for France, and this is from the UK, which is really just my little headphones.
Oh,
These are just my earbuds. I couldn't think of a better way to represent music. So the culture is very different here for music, and even though I mean, obviously, your radio, you got Spotify, you can listen to whatever
mm.
music you want anywhere. But it's I I I play music. I enjoy live music, and so there's differences. There's things I miss. Yeah, going to a smaller venue or even like a pub or something. I used to play quite a lot, and it's just different. It's hard
Mm.
to explain, but it's just different. There's a strong connection with French music here, which you would
Mm.
expect, but quite frankly, I can talk about this at length with people, but there's something that you're just, I don't know. My ears are quite sympathetic, but they're not very sympathetic to the things that French people like, and it's just a taste difference, but it's something in the DNA that's just different, right? So I joined a French band. I was a singer in a French band, and some of the songs they tried to make me sing, I struggled with. I just really didn't like them. Music is important to me,
Mm,
so that was my way of representing something that's very important to me and my culture.
amazing. Thanks, Stephen. Who is your favorite artist or singer?
It's a really hard one if you like anything. It's like, what's your favorite film? Don't really have one. I've got lots that I like. Same with music. I'd say the moment, that's probably the easiest one to answer. I like Wonder Horse and Fontaine's DC are my two favorites at the moment.
Not a OSS fan. Like people, I found a lot of people of your age. They grew up listening to.
How old do you think I am, Rahul? Don't let the beard fool you. I'm only like 24 last time I checked.
I did not realize that because I stay in Manchester, I did not realize that OSS is such a big thing over here. So
Yeah.
everyone talks about OSS.
Yeah, they're a big favorite. No, not massively. I did listen to them. You can't not listen to them, can you? Growing up, I went to the big Nebworth gig when I was younger. The one that they all talked about when they kind of did their big comeback. But no, they were never really my favorite. I would say not bad enough to turn off the radio.
Nice one. Right. Last but not least, Tony.
I'd say here's one of the most important thing for me to survive throughout my university. I brought you the instant coffee back straight from Vietnam. That is quite bad, and it's quite interesting that back in Vietnam we don't have like certain types of coffee with milk. We only have like black coffees or milk coffees, but our milk coffees doesn't go with like a latte or cappuccino. They have condensed milk with coffee, and people say that as milk coffee. We are quite basic and straightforward in terms of having certain types of coffees. So the flavor is absolutely amazing. I would recommend, like, I totally recommend you try Vietnamese coffee. It's have like a total different flavor, and it's amazing to be fair. And culturally wise, as Vietnamese people tends to have like little nap around like 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. That makes me so difficult to stay awake during my university lecture, especially from like 12 p.m. to 1 p.m.
Mm.
That's the reason why I always have these kind of instant coffees to stay awake and just trying to stay focused during that lecture, which is a really good fun to be fair. I'm still drinking coffee, but not really like milk coffee anymore. And the second thing I want to bring is my half zip in my university. So that is the football kit and the one and only kit that I've bought in the last 5 to 6 years living in the UK. Even though like the UK is really huge or really popular for football and stuff, that is the only thing that I'm really proud of because that's represent my whole university life. Not trying to blend in, but have a lot of fun, have lots of great friends, loads of memories, and most importantly, doing the things that I love the most, playing football and trying to be a better person every day and every day. So in overall, those are the two things I'm really proud in terms of like culturally and have the most valuable for me, I'd say. I've completely torn my ACL last year, so I have to go through an operations, rehabs, and everything. So I only started to play football again in the last couple of months. So, but I'm still really love the game. So I'm really hoping the day that I can fully come back to the pitch and stuff.
I think let's go back to where the story started for you guys. What made you guys decide to move abroad?
For me, it was more of a career decision. So, like, I was working in India for 10 years, and then I reached a level where, like, you had this flexibility wherein you can move to an open position in abroad, and that was like that's a huge Indian aspiration as well. Like, if you are educated enough and you reach a level where you can move to a foreign nation, especially like most of the people preferred an English speaking country. So like you'll see a lot of people moving to US. UK almost become a second favorite. And in that term, like I got an opportunity and I totally grabbed it. And once I moved in here, that was we'll talk about that in a second, that how I navigated through that journey. But it was more or less a career progressing this decision rather than anything else.
Was there any difficulty when you made that decision? Because I know for a lot of people, you have your family back home, and for your future career, you need to move abroad. Did your family support that? Did you find any difficulties in, choosing between staying with your family, being with your parents, versus moving to a brand new country for your career?
It was a tough call in that regard, because yeah, in India, like family relations are quite vital. Sometimes you often stay with your parents, and that was a tough call in terms of like if you're moving abroad. And like when I first took that decision, the initial thought was let's try it for 1 year, because yeah, that's the default visa you get. And so I thought, like, let's move in and I'll explore whether like I can survive in that country for 1 year. And I made sure that whenever there's an opportunity to travel back to India for festival or for any other occasion, I could travel. And that was one of the positive point for me to choose between US and UK, because UK and India travel time is quite less, 8 hours, so you can easily navigate. And like in case of any emergency, that's that much how much time it will take to travel from one part in India to another part. So I thought, again, that regard, the journey back to is just 8 hours. So let's take that call. And once that things balance out, I spent 1 year and I felt confident enough to be in this country, and I decided to extend my stay here. And yeah, that's how it was. For me, there was one more positive, that my sister was also staying in UK, so I could have some sort of family connect as well. So I was not totally lonely in the UK. I could balance my professional as well as personal life in here.
Antonia, how about yourself? When you were 16, was that your parents' decision, or you
Well,
decided that you wanted to study abroad?
well, I would say it's half half, and it's got influence so much from my cousin. So I would say I'm quite blessed. I'm in a family that my cousins, not only my cousins, but also my mother had an opportunity to go abroad and go to UK specifically. She was in the UK for around a year and realized that the UK is quite good, apart from the weather. And for me personally, when I was finishing high school, which should be around like GCSEs in the UK, I got an opportunity, to be fair, to start my foundation certificate in the UK. Because personally, I really love challenge. And for
Mm.
me, my mother told me that if you got an opportunity to, let's say, to study or live in another country, it means that you have like a completely new opportunity to relive your life, like, or live another life. So I take that really, really out, not really personal, but like as a really good inspiration. And I'm really blessed that I got my cousin here. So it's really straightforward that I really want to have to take a new challenge. I want to meet another country whatsoever, because for me to traveling or to do something new, it just my life. So at some point it's I would say it's half half. My
Mm.
mother really wants me to go abroad because because of the education and the opportunity that study abroad can brings me. And also I really love challenge. I really want to travel and studying. So yeah, here I am living my best life.
Thanks, Tony. Steve, so we have Rahul and Tony. It seems like they both have their relatives, so sisters and cousins here. How about you? When you moved to France, and do you have any relatives there, or is just, you and your family moving over?
My wife's French, so we
Mm.
met in London. Um, but as I say, I travelled a lot um, prior to meeting her and
Mm.
with her. We spent a year travelling together before we got married. So travel and adventure has always been part of my life. So a bit like, what Tony was saying resonates. So no, there was no real draw there. I didn't really actually want to live in France at all, to be truthful. It wasn't something that attracted me, and it was never really on the cards. But then I suppose, yeah, a couple of things like culminated in the catalyst to actually make a move. And so nothing is that simple, but I'd say just from listening to Rahul and Tony, so a couple of things were the weather. I suppose picture the scene. I'd spent a long time working. I say a long time. I'd a concentrated amount of time clambering up the corporate ladder to get to what I thought was the top, or just to try and get to a position where I was comfortable. Because really, ultimately, I was just trying to create comfort for my family. But in doing so, I realized that there was something incongruous there. So I spent a lot of time because of my job working away from home, and I'd spend a lot of time stuck in traffic. So I was in my dream car, feeling like, this is all great, but I'd look out the panoramic roof at the overcast sky, and I'm like, is this really what I wanted? And I'm like, I'm not so sure. I've got two at this point, my sons were very young. So I think about 3 and 5 at the time. And I'm a firm believer in the cliches that you hear when you're um, well, regarding anything, they're usually true, right? So when you've got kids, a lot of people I spoke to said, it goes like this. It goes in a flash. Before you know it, they're off and they've left home. And I was like, well, okay, maybe that's not really what I want out of life. It's a little bit unconventional, but I'm not really that concerned about convention. So I thought, well, what's the point of being alive? And really, for me, it was about spending time with them. And actually, I realized that the industry I'd ended up in wasn't something by choice, it was just by chance. And actually, it really meant nothing. And so, again, what Tony was saying resonates. I'm a big believer in challenge. I've tested myself many times, and I'll bet on myself every time to clamber out of whatever situation. And I don't take life too seriously. And I just thought, well, so part of it is I had a near-death experience at one point, and I came very close. I had that moment where your numbers up. Really, it was a miracle I got out of that particular situation. But as a result of being so close to passing over to the other side, I just felt an immense feeling of connection with the world, with the universe, and with everybody else. And as a result of that, over a long period of time, I've learned to just not invest so much in the things that you tend to be conditioned to invest in. So the aesthetics around you and all those things are actually meaningless. So for me, it's very much about connection and about family and about doing what's important to me. So I'd say it's a culmination of those things. And then if you were going to be putting in the recipe of why I moved, I'd sprinkle in a bit of Brexit over the top because my wife was French and not feeling very comfortable here, well, in the UK anymore. And so, yeah, she found a role. So I distinctly remember saying, I don't want to move to France unless it's either in the mountains or by the sea. And she managed to land a job in the sea, right in basically one of the top tourist spots in France. So it was kind of I dug myself my own hole there, and it's a very nice, pretty place that we live. So the climate's better, the sun shines, and so that was ultimately the final straw for me. Yeah.
Well, that's really inspiring, Steve, like the perspective, the story you just shared, because I can see the differences between your story versus the Rahul, Tony, even myself story as well. Where for us, I think we're at the age of, discovering, like exploring what we can achieve, being more self-aware and, exploring the world out there. And I think, Steve, in your story, it seems like you've been through all of this, right? You understand yourself very clearly after, all those years being in the previous jobs, and now your priorities change as well. So it's not just about yourself anymore. It's going to be about, your family, and then, what the future is going to look like for the whole family. So it's like very interesting to see, how we change over times with, when we have more responsibilities, when we have our own family, etc., and when we have experience in it. So I think let's try to remember the first weeks when you were in a new country. Did you have any challenge when you moved to, the UK or France?
So mine was quite interesting. So I moved here in June 22, and if you remember, that was the year UK was witnessing a lot of heat stroke. So when I was about to go for the office for the first day, it was a bright sunny day. The temperature was at around like 16, 18 degree, and I thought like, yeah. So I just wore a blazer for the work, and God, I really did not know that UK weather just so I took my train from Stanmore, and by the time I reached Canary Wharf, it was already raining, and I did not carry an umbrella, neither do I carry. So that was my first lesson in the UK that never trust your weather. It can change in a moment. So that was my first lesson, and then. Yeah, I think commuting in the London is also a challenge. So, like, if you come from a developing country like India, yeah, it's very crowdy, but yeah, you often travel with your own vehicle or you commute with office given transport. So here it was a big challenge navigating to different way. The plus point was that because yeah, it's an English speaking country, so you can read it through and you can make your way to the office. That was the first challenge. The second challenge was more and around culture and nuances. So I remember when I visited office for the first day, and I asked for a gatekeeper, can you help me with my ID card? And like he was not listening, so I just called because in India that's a practice. You if someone is not listening, you call him sir. So I said, sir, can you help me out with my ID card? And at that moment, I realized that yeah, in UK, calling someone sir is not not at a go. Like it's you are not authorized to call anyone sir on your own behalf. So like these small culture nuances was the second challenge. And I guess like people were very friendly. So like if you ask question, people were very friendly to answer you, navigating. So that's something which I realized that you need to hesitate. If you are feeling doubtful, you can ask genuine question. People will help you on the street. People will help you in the office in navigating to different scenarios. And through all of these scenarios, I made my way. And so like there was definitely challenge for the first week. But if you like, I that will be my suggestion to anyone who's moving to the UK or any other country for that matter, that don't hesitate. Ask genuine question. People will understand your perspective that yeah, he's not aware of unless they are very blunt. But like a normal emotional person will understand your perspective and they will be ready to answer your question. So don't hesitate in asking question. That will be my suggestion.
One of the things I'm still remember till now, I went to the UK around September, so it was around like 25 degrees back in Vietnam, and in the UK it was around like 16, 17, I'm not sure. But the cold in the UK is completely different than in Vietnam. For some reason, when I first it's my first time in the UK and everyone's wearing like shorts, t-shirt. I have to wear like multiple hoodies, sweatshirts and everything. This sounds crazy to be fair because all of my flatmates wearing shorts and it's like it's freezing in here. Can you turn on the heater and stuff in the middle of September? Which is absolutely one of the things I really want to mention is it happens to I'll say the most of um the international students, especially back in Vietnam, because I've been helping around 20-ish students with their journey traveling from Vietnam to UK. We don't use usual plugs, so in I think it resonates with you as well, Steve. We don't use like three pin plugs back in Vietnam. We use two, so we have to have the transitor to be living in the UK. Multiple things that's really interesting. We don't have the ultimate like groceries like Sainsbury's, Tesco, where you can check out by yourself. We always have a cashier. We don't have public transport like tubes. We only have tubes for the last 2 years back in Vietnam. So how crazy is that? I don't even know how to use the tube since my first day. It's really hectic when you're traveling in the in the Euston station. There's something that you can resonate that the Northern Line in Houston is one of the worst one. They have like multiple ways. You have northbound, southbound, but you got like Charing Cross, and you got the other way around as well. It's like, oh my God, I'm not sure what I should go. The best thing I can potentially is walk. So I still remember for the first 5 months in the UK, I don't use public transport because I don't really like them. I walk a lot. I only use public transport from my home to the college, and I walk from the college back to home because I really like walking in the UK. Really, really interesting. Most of our challenges are not coming from education, not coming from our homework or whatever. It's mostly coming from the really usual things. For instance, like how to buy things, how to go to the supermarket with like a saving with the most economic approach. How can we do this and do that and better? Like how can we commute better? How can we do laundry? Because for some reason, the UK rains a lot, and it's not a really ideal to have your clothes like outside the house because 9 a.m. is going to be like really sunny, but 10 is going to be raining at some point. So yeah, I resonate with you at Rahul. It's crazy the weather here is having trouble with all of those like really basic things in a day-to-day life. How to turn on the heater. We don't have heater back in Vietnam, to be fair, so that's really interesting, I would say.
Yeah, I think definitely I completely agree with you. The fact that, it's all about life skills, right? When you're in the UK, all the soft skills, asking people questions when you don't know where to find stuff. And again, to your point around all of our, public transport and different lines that they have. But I think I can guarantee for sure that once you've known how to use the UK public transport with all the lines and you go to all the EU countries, it's gonna be like a piece of cake. And it's going to be very easy to navigate around because I've been training in the UK, like learning how to read the tube map and all sort of things like that. Steve, when you start living in France, when was the moment that you realize, oh, wow, living here is actually changing me?
My biggest challenge is around communication. And so as a result of that, I'm just trying to grab onto the time frame. There was a time in which I realized it's very difficult to be me. So a big challenge is around identity. And the reason is because even if I can communicate reasonably well in French, it's not quick enough, it's not sharp enough. Therefore, things are just work a little bit slower. And so your reaction time, so you can be listening to a conversation and you might think, oh, I want to say this, but then you're like figuring out how to say it properly. And then you start to question, is it going to land culturally? Is it going to be funny? And when you spend most of your time communicating and relying on your sense of humor as a vehicle to communication, then that becomes challenging. So I'd say there was definitely a distinct moment when I realized that I was an extrovert and I've become an introvert. So at social gatherings, I'll hide in a corner and I just won't bother all the time because I just find it's too noisy. I can't figure out what's going on. With it, you throw in some music and people shouting over the top of it. I can't understand. I really just can't. And I can get bits if I can get someone one to one, and then I might be able to get it. But it's a constant challenge. And then just not feeling natural in communication has been the big turning point. So yeah, then it was a reflection on identity, and I was like, well, actually, I need to accept that I'm not the same person as I once was, and how does that make me feel, and how do I go about either accepting that or making steps to allow that other person to come out in different ways.
Rahul and Tony, for you guys as well, how did living in the UK change the way you express yourself in communication?
For me, I think there are multiple dimension to this question. First is like we in India, like we grew up listening to a lot of US TV shows or movies, so we are more adaptive to the US accent of English. We are not very used to British accent, so that was the first challenge. And like when I've moved to a more northern part of the UK, I think that challenge is getting bigger and bigger for me. So like it took some time to understand the accent part, and the second bit is around also the like small language nuances. Every now and then someone asks you, "You all right? You all right?" And like in India, it seems very rude if you don't respond to anyone questions. But like that took me some day to understand, okay, you don't need to respond to that exact question. That
Mm,
if someone is asking you all right, you don't respond fully. You just said, "Oh yeah, I'm good. How about you?" Or yeah, I'm good. So that was the second dimension. And the third bit too is around the vocab as well. So like yeah, we say that we understand English and we understand English vocabulary, but like British, God, they really have their own words. Like you never, like they call umbrella the brolly. They call like when they are pissed off, they say that I'm absolutely knackered, and like I'm gutted. You and these words often come in the conversation, and it took some time for me to understand those nuances, or like like parallelly I'm googling what does this word even mean. So that was the third dimension. And then like I realized that one of the key aspect of like interacting with a lot of British folks, but I understand that like you can make a very serious problem statement looks very simple by making things very casual, like, leaving things very casual. So like you don't need to be very serious about a lot of serious stuff. So like I remember interacting with the VP of he translated that conversation in a very casual manner that can we do something about this? Like I feel that this is not what we wanted. So he made that thing looks very casual. So I think that's something which I understand that British people make, or in the UK the culture is that you can make any business problem statement looks very simple, keep things very lighter. You don't need to be very serious all the time.
mm,
And one thing which I realize also that like social drinking is a concept which in India is quite limited to your friend circle or a family. But
mm,
you can also have business-oriented social drinking in UK, wherein like people talk about football, people talk about cricket or the weather, but like in between those conversations, they can also bring in work. That what do you think? How this will go? And at that point in time, you really start to making connection with those people. So I think making connection was quite vital for me. And like I moved to this new country. I do not have a lot of friends, and those were as Steve mentioned that he is missing those small, smart, like informal communication bit in his day-to-day life. And that's where I felt like I could bridge that gap by connecting with people, talking about different aspect of life. And once you understand the people, I think the next bit of solving any problem, business problem, is quite easy because you understand their perspective. And that's where I thought like I try to I never hesitated of communication then. So like wherever I got an opportunity to deal with any people, I took that as a pride. I talked to them like I the initial notion was that you just need to go office 2 day. So I used to go for rest of the day. I used to go to the Accenture office, 2 days to the client office, so that I can interact with a lot of different people. And one of the advantages of London is like there are so many culture here, so it's not just you are understanding British culture. You'll meet a Vietnamese guy, you will meet a French guy. So it's like a mini world living in the same city. A lot of different accent, a lot of different people, and like even if you sit on a lunch table, your friends will sort of like everyone will from different culture orientation. So you'll understand their perspective, and that will once you understand different perspective, it will shape your communication as well as your working style or orientation in that regard. So that was one of the positive, which well, that's how it changed my working style in the UK.
Does it change as well when you come back to India? Like, did people tell you that, oh, you kind of like using British word now, you have British accents now, all sort of things like that?
Not that, but like one thing which is like a more of a culture thing in India, like when you have this kind of Zoom call,
Mm,
people do not often turn on their camera. So because like in India was working more in a offshore model in the last decade, and there was no Zoom at that point in time. People used to make international calls from telephone. So the next version of that telephone call conversation now becomes Zoom. People, I think, haven't got that and like sometimes because of the time difference, people are working from their home, so they often feel hesitant to turn on their camera. So that's one thing which I now find very strange. I used to do the same thing as well. Like I could not turn on my camera earlier, but like now it feels like quite strange to me that I'm speaking on camera and someone at the other end is just I'm hearing a voice. So that's one of the thing which I feel like has changed me, and now I feel quite awkward like if someone does not turn on their camera while doing a business conversation.
Yeah, I think I like that. And especially for us working in, in an international environment nowadays, right? Working with a lot of
Yeah.
people from, different countries. So I think is a very important point that you mentioned there is to be aware of their culture and the way they communicate to build
Yeah.
that, business relationships or even like personal relationships. Tony, how about you? What was the moment that you feel that you changed because you live here?
I'm gonna break it really short. I was remember when I was 18, and instantly my mother gave me a phone call, a video call, and saying you are 18 now. You're fully responsible with your life now. You go out and get a job. And it's like, mate, I'm living in the UK. I'm not in Vietnam anymore. So why would you have to do that to me? Chill. All right, I'll try to get some part-time job since I've in the next few days. So all right, chill. That's the moment. I didn't get any greetings, any yeah, literally I don't have any greetings from my family, from my mother. Just a really practical advice. You are 18 now, you're responsible for your life. Go and do something. It's like, okay, great. So since then I have to find some part-time roles. And I was remembering when I was a being a waiter back in a Vietnamese restaurant here in London. It changed me a lot, to be fair, because that's the first time I can talk to like multiple types of people. Most of the people I'm talking to during my university was all of the students and professors. They are really academic. They are wise. But they are at some point they are not really they are not really lively. Some of the customers can be a bit rude to you, and you have to
Mm,
deal with that at some point. And like, great, I have to deal with these people. I don't want to talk to them anymore, to be fair, but I have to talk to them anyway. I have to deal with certain situations. Sometimes the hardest case is not coming from the customer, it's actually coming from our kitchen, from our own internal staff and stuff. And that's the moment that I have to realize, and I realized that I stepped out of my comfort zone. I'm not dealing with students anymore. I'm dealing with people trying to make a living here and
mm,
certain types of people as well. Literally, I was broaden my horizon. I know so more about life since then. It requires really proactive personality to in order to thrive more and to do more in that kind of situation. I remember that during that time, because I had to do multiple things, I still got things to do in my university and still have my part-time role. So many things happening. So most of the time when I was trying to sleep, problems arise, to be fair. Question arise, how could I do different in this scenario when I was a waiter? For this homework, what could I do? Stress coming in. And things survive through that time makes me to become a tougher person, to become
mm,
a better person in general. So I'd say the moment that changed my life most during my journey in the UK is when I started to work part-time and trying to know more about the bigger world, not just like academic anymore. It's wider now at some point. I would say, looking back, I would say which is a really good fun, and I'm pleased to have those scenarios, those challenges when I was a bit younger, so that I can become a more proactive person in the days that helped me a lot in life, to be fair.
Thanks for sharing, Tony. When you live abroad, I'm sure there won't be a moment that you're gonna feel lonely and you're gonna feel stressed because of, like the new environment, the work requirements. For some people, even like if they don't have anyone around themselves, they don't have families who stay with them, they're just gonna be in a country all by themselves. How do you guys deal with your, emotions like, loneliness, stress? Do you have, any techniques or any activities that you guys usually do to cope with that?
Obviously, everyone deals with things in their own particular way, but I think it's finding that thing that you you feel comfort within. I'm quite an introspective person anyway, so I turn to meditation, breathing, as simple as that may sound, but breathing exercises, meditation, music, exercise, really just trying to look after my body. And I guess it's kind of like giving yourself a bit of a self hug. Look after your body. If your brain or your mind is a little bit discombobulated, a little bit overwhelmed or confused, it's a good signal to yourself to look after yourself. So if you can find ways in which you can soothe yourself, I think that's a good coping mechanism to think about.
Completely agree with Steve, to be fair. I've tried meditation, breathing, and it does help like immensely, to be fair. One of the things I also do is I'm trying to find hobbies and trying to find groups and clubs that sharing the same hobby. I joined my football club in my university because I'm really like playing football, and every time I had like stress and stuff, I always trying to play football because it helped me. It's so good for me to relax by playing football. I don't know, I don't really understand why, but the moment I can play football, I feel really really peaceful, and I feel that I can be myself, and I realize that it takes a lot to do nothing, but I mean at some point playing doing whatever you really like, for me is playing football helps a lot with getting through that stress and loneliness at some point.
I love that. It definitely it shows the connections between your mind and your body as well, I think, to a certain extent.
So one thing which really depress you in the UK is elongated and dark winter, which we are not used to. So like yeah, as like I still have that fear. Like as soon as September or October arrives, like I start feeling that sense of depression inside my heart. That okay, it's gonna be dark for longer time. So I think yeah. In summers, you won't feel that much of loneliness because you work and like the entire vibe is quite chill. But winter it's really depress you. So like one thing which I also did is I was not very choosy about like these kind of people I'm gonna meet or I'm not, like wherever I got an opportunity to meet new people, I took that up. I talked to them through, like if there is a community meetup, I went to that, or if there is any office event, I went to that. So like I never missed any office parties for that matter. Like you go to the parties, you get to you get the chance to meet a lot of new people and to talk to them about general stuff about life. And then one thing which I feel with our generation is like we are not quite disconnected with our surroundings. So like even if we are walking, we have a headphone or a earbud in our ear, and we are just disconnected with our surrounding. We are listening to the podcast. So like I intentionally started avoiding that. Like if I'm just going for a walk in the park, I'm not gonna wear the earbuds. So I'll just quickly silently observe like what's happening in and around, and that also helps to create some sort of belonging in that environment. So like if you connected with a earbud and walking on a park, you are there in the park but you are actually not there. Your mind is still listening to that voice in your ear. So I started avoiding that, and like I start observing people and like the different sort of noises. So that itself like internally started changing you. You don't feel very like separated from your surroundings, so you feel you have a sense of belonging. And then yeah, like as soon as summer arrives, like I joined a cricket club over here to play cricket, and that's like that gives a really good sense of community or a team over the weekend to me as well. So those are the two things which I did to get par with my loneliness in here.
A very good call of being present, right? You have to be physically and also mentally there as well in wherever you are. It's time for some what would you do moments. So we have two scenarios from our community that I've got here. So the first one, Tony, maybe for yourself. We have a university student and she just moved to the UK and feeling lonely and struggling to make friends. How would you handle this situation if you were in that situation?
I would potentially join in societies. There are multiple societies for international students. For instance, like us, we have like a Vietnamese society under the Vietnamese Student Association and stuff. Joining them with events and socials are a really good way to build connections and also to learn more from the seniors at some point. And also, one of the things that I've really enjoyed doing is joining clubs and society in my universities because that's where I can be myself and I can do whatever things I really want to do. Yeah, I joined my football club during my university, but also I've joined in a coding society because I'm really into coding. My major is in computer science as well, so I mean that's both a really good way for me to improve my physical health, but also my mentally health at some point. Because joining and doing the things that you are really enjoying with a pack of people having the same mindset and the same energy is really, really important. And it's bring people together, and you might not feel any loneliness afterwards because there's a high chance you can make like loads of friends during those socials. So I would highly recommend her to trying to join more societies, clubs, or even trying to find a part-time role at some point.
Yeah, I love that. And for people who haven't been to the UK, so I think there are a lot of platforms where they can find events and socials like Meetup or Eventbrite. So they can always go to those platforms to start with, like, just go out there and just meet new people. Or for the second scenarios, we have a young professional who just started his job abroad and found the work culture completely different, less social and more structured. How can he adapt and connect with his team? Rahul, do you have any suggestion?
I would say it's like from my experience, don't be very hesitant in asking question. I was a bit hesitant for initial few weeks until I understood like that's not gonna help me, and I'm probably gonna end lose my job. So don't be hesitant in asking question, like legit question. Then yeah, people are very really helpful. They will answer your questions. Like well, like for one instance, I did not understand that people call their calendar diary over here, and like one of my manager asked me, can you put that into my diary? And like I was a bit confused, what does it mean by that? But I had the correct perception about that, so I could okay, he meant to arrange a meeting. But like if I could have just asked that question on the call with him, like what do you mean by that, I could have saved few hours for me. So that is something which I understand, like you should not be very hesitant in asking question. What if like maximum what will happen, they might feel that it's a rubbish question, but at least you will save some time for you, you will have your clarity for the future. So
Mm,
don't be hesitant in asking question, and yeah, try to communicate with as many people as you can, so that they will also guide you what's the best way in this scenario. So like yeah, communication, and don't be hesitant in asking question. Those are my two advice for anyone in this scenario.
amazing. Thank you, Rahul.
Don't take things too seriously. Like
I love
leave
that.
your ego at the door because it's a humbling experience.
Mm,
Regardless, you have to accept you're in a position of vulnerability, and yeah, it's like Tony and Rahul have just said. It's about being brave enough to go and put yourselves in those moments of vulnerability, whether it's joining a new club to meet people or whether it's asking a question that you feel might be a little basic, but that's the only way you can grow. So yeah, you have to
I
face
love
those fears.
that.
So, but and keeping a sense of humor just means that sometimes things can get a little bit you can get a bit feel a bit vulnerable, as I said, and therefore the sense of humor is just like, actually, this is just silly. You know, why am I taking myself so seriously? They probably don't. Just say it with a smile. You know, it might seem silly, but just say it anyway. I think you start to realize, particularly when you can't communicate in the first language, is your face and your expression, your smile, your eyes, your body language does have a massive part of all your communication. So actually, the verbal part is only a small percentage of it, and it's the rest that can you become more aware of, and you can control more, so you can overcome some of those issues. So yeah, that would be what I'd say. Leave the ego behind, keep a sense of humor, don't take yourself too seriously.
I love that a lot. I think at the end of the day, right, we move abroad because we believe that we're going to be in a better environment to thrive. So we should be able to be authentic. We don't have to pretend to be someone else, because if that's the case, then you likely, in a wrong environment, and moving abroad is not worth it. So I think definitely can resonate. Amazing, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. And if you can give your younger self, or the people who are pre-abroad, one piece of advice, what would that be?
Don't be scared. Yeah, that's as simple as it. Like, don't be scared. Like, either it will be a great learning experience for you, or it could be a life-defining decision for you. So that just don't be scared. Like, you might not like this place. You will always have an option to go back. But if you like this place, and it will open new avenues for you, you could unlock great potential within yourself which you were not aware of. So I think, yeah, don't be scared in experimenting at this stage of your life, because you're young. You always have the chance to roll back and go back to your life as going on in your country. But just give it a chance.
Thank you, Rahul. Tony?
I'd say trying to do a bit more research in terms of like what you want to do in when you're studying abroad. Make the plans a bit clearer. And if you
Mm,
need helps or like need guidance, remember there's a place. Trying to join or follow the journey node where the beautiful people sharing really valuable lessons, sharing valuable podcasts can help you a lot in terms of starting your study abroad journey. Not like in terms of studying abroad journey, but also in shaping your life skills, because that's one of the most important things for students, especially studying abroad, but also for young professionals as well.
thank you so much for the shout out, Tony. And last but not least, Steve.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for.
Thank you so much, guys, again for today, for your personal stories and all the great advice you share with our audience. So, to our listeners, if you are living abroad, yes, it is challenging in many ways, but it's also one of the most rewarding experiences that you wouldn't have. So, feel free to join our global community where we will share more stories and tips about living abroad. This has been the Journey Not Real Talk. See you next time.